Okay, we ready? Hi, Phil. Is Phil on health? I think everybody else is.
Yeah.
Yep, you are.
Yes. There's 13 of them.
Wow. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to the first health meeting of 2023. I'm excited to work with Vice Chair Coates and pick up the ball where the previous chair, Ms. Williams, and Vice Chair, Ms. Duncan, left off. So I look forward to a successful 2023. First of all, I need to get a motion to allow Mr. Elsasser to attend via video conference. Thank you, Becky. A second by Brandy. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Opposed? Welcome, Brian.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right, we'll get right into the informational items. The first is care and treatment. Oh, I didn't do the minutes. Thank you. First, Steve, we're both. Can I get a motion? Actually, we need to approve the minutes of the October 25th. Can I get a motion by Jennifer and a second by Eden? Are there any corrections, substitutions, amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we're to informational items. And we got care and treatment. I believe Todd's here. Yep. Hello.
You bet. Thank you, Chairman Renaud. Care and Treatment Board's excited to start off 2023. I've recently met with Chairman Dillon and Administrator Sorrell, and we will, I believe the board will see appointments next week, and so we'll be fully populated, and just looking forward to moving forward and helping our agencies and taking care of our less fortunate in Peoria County.
Just for the new board members, can you just give us a brief summary of what care and treatment does?
You bet. The Care and Treatment Board is the 377 board of Peoria County. I believe it was in the 60s when the county board voted to levy taxes for the purchase of services for individuals with developmental disabilities in the county. And so I've been at this since 2008, and we have partner agencies that we provide grants to. Basically, we purchase services for the county, including EPIC, CWTC, Camp Big Sky, Best Buddies, and some other agencies. So,
Fantastic. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
thank you, Chairman.
Next we have EMA. Hello.
Hello. Just a brief update in your monthly report. Just to highlight, there was a lot of equipment status update, and that's partly because at end of year, what the EMA likes to do, especially during the season, is do quick maintenance and replacement to really gear up with any of the funds available so that we can start the spring season ready for any incremental weather where the outdoor warning systems would be needed. The other thing I want to highlight briefly is many of you should have received an email. It most likely went through to your county email. Jason has been coordinating with TEEX, which is the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Services, to bring a specific training for senior officials to Peoria. This training will be in, I think, April 5th. There's a link to, I think it's not a working link to register for it, but it'll be here at the Fire Academy. And this is an opportunity for especially some of our newer officials or ones that not have attended these type of trainings before to get familiar with how we really plan and prepare for natural or other disasters, as well as how we kind of create frameworks and infrastructures to make sure that we are operating within that capacity to help with decision making and policy, as well as to support our operational aspects. So again, that will be April 5th, and Jason was able to bring that here locally. More than happy to answer any questions.
Great. Does somebody have any questions on EMA? Nope.
Mr. Chairman, I do. Monica, just for the benefit of the group, does that training also include some basic high-level incident command overview and training?
It does. So there'll be a kind of an overview of intro to how we do instant command structures. But as always, if you're interested in just kind of a separate class, it's like a 101, Mr. Marks would be more than happy to kind of send you a direct link to some of those online platforms.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the Regional Office of Education.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to new board members. If I haven't got to meet you yet, and as teacher, I'm going to start passing out paper. Because the regional office, I mean, everybody knows what a sheriff does and that kind of thing. So I thought I'll give you just a really quick synopsis of our office so that you know when I report to you what it is that we do at the Regional Office of Education. My name is Beth Kreider. I have been in education since I graduated from ISU in '93. I taught kindergarten, first grade, and special ed for 17 years for Peoria Public Schools before I came over here as the assistant ROE and then became the regional superintendent. To have this job, you have to have a master's degree in educational administration, which I have from Bradley. So with that, the county board is very generous in their support of our office, which is across the hall. So please come over and check us out. With the very small amount of the budget of the ROE that the county provides, I am able to leverage that into what you see as a value add in this region report. And that's millions of dollars that come to Peoria County in services because of what we're able to do with the approximately $240,000 that the county board provides. So this report shows you what some of those things are. It starts with some demographic information. There are 18 school districts that we all serve here in Peoria County. And my salary, as well as my assistant, Dr. George McKenna, is not paid by the county board. I get a paycheck from Susanna Mendoza. I am a state employee. So my check comes directly from them. You will see on the further budget information pages, I'll highlight a few things just so that you know. School code is about the size of 4 Bibles and growing. And throughout the school code, which are the laws of how we implement public education here in Illinois, there are several things that I have to do by law. You will see those reflected in this report. One of those is we are the only entity in Peoria County that can give the GED, which is now called the Illinois High School Diploma. So there is a testing center across the hall. If there's people taking that test right now that are getting their GED and on their way to a better life. So you can come check that out. We are also the ones that certify that every bus driver is safe. We inspect every school building in Peoria County every year, looking for violations and things to make sure that it is safe. We do compliance, which is making sure they're following all the rules and regulations. But some of the value add would be preschool for all. We run 4 preschool classrooms here in Peoria County, 2 at St. Paul Baptist Church on Knoxville, and 2 in the Bartonville area. We have, for the first time since COVID, a massive waiting list. So we are going to, if we can find a teacher, we are going to write for another classroom to try to expand that to 5. I also run the alternative high school for Peoria County. If a student is not successful in Peoria County, they can come to me for a second chance. And we have had hundreds of students since that opened in 2011 get a high school diploma that would have dropped out of school. And where is Jimmy? We moved, Jimmy, wherever you are. We are out of Wildlife Prairie and we moved into the Franciscan Center. 2 long days, Monday and Tuesday of this week, getting moved into the Franciscan Center. Construction is done. It is beautiful. We are ready to go. And oh my goodness, when we moved, when you move furniture at Wildlife Prairie and whatnot, there's a lot of mouse things left over and little baby snakes in the mouse traps. And so I'm not sad to have moved, but leaving that park on such a beautiful day yesterday was very hard. But we're looking forward to our new relationship with the Peoria Park District at the Franciscan Center. So we're all moved. School starts on Monday. We are also the truancy entity for Peoria County. That is actually your responsibility, and I'm your service that does that. So that office is in the basement here, across from Treasurer Bierke's office. And that staff is out there knocking on doors, and when we're not successful, if we have to, taking families to court about going to school and being truant. Beyond that, you can see the other things in our report of what we do. We are required by law to produce this report every year. So a couple other little highlights, since it's been a hot second since I've seen you. Okay, I introduced myself. We moved. I'm just so excited about that move. That's just going to be so great for us. I haven't seen you since Peoria High got second in football. Woo! Okay. I have to give that shout out because I missed when they were visiting. And I'll conclude with this. Many of you know, if you've been here before, that one of my passions is supporting students that have had traumatic events and social and emotional learning. And so with the $5,000 investment from the county board, we've been able to add on other funds and some grant funding to expand that service to quite a few of the schools in Peoria County, and one of them is Dunlap. And I sat through their onboarding where they went through a series of questions. It's called the TRISA. We're really good at acronyms in education. So it's a way to go through a school's data to take a look at some things. And it was at Banner Elementary, if you're familiar with where that is in the Dunlap school system. It's a K5 building. Looking at just their attendance data and some of the things that they did not realize were going on in their own building by not looking at the data, and the way we're able to take them through that to find kids that have needs and need support on getting to school and what they need to be successful in school. It was really cool. I have a director of that. I just sat in and was watching the process. So we're continuing to invest in that and trying to expand it, because there are still a lot of post-pandemic things that we are working through. And any way we can support our schools in that work, we are. I talked really fast because there's a lot that I wanted to get in, but I am across the hall. I am open to a cup of coffee anytime. The schools that you represent within your area, wherever you're at in the county, if you ever want to talk about those or want to go to that school and get an introduction, please let me know. I would be glad to do that.
Thank you so much. Beth does just such a fabulous job, and that's what the new members will come to realize super fast. And I think one of the things that she's done for me is help open my eyes to trauma and what kids go through while they're sitting there trying to learn. And I appreciate what you've done to bring that to light for us. So I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the Board of Health. We saved this for the last of the informational items because Camille and I have hit the ground running with this project. You know, our biggest lift for this committee, starting right off the bat, is the new health campus. And our previous committee got the ball rolling big time. And we've got to keep up the momentum and the support and making sure that we're making good decisions so that we can keep this project on track. So Monica and I believe Scott are going to have a little presentation for us.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, Becca is here and can give the sustainability report as well.
I just keep skipping people.
And there's
Sorry,
also the
Becca.
triad report.
And the
after
triad. I'll just say, triad didn't meet last month. I'm anxious to hear about this health campus. Sorry, Becca.
Oh, no problem at all. I'm anxious to hear too. So I just have a few small additions to or highlights that I want to pull out of the agenda brief that was submitted. Excited about the work over the last year with townships, and on December 13th, the Limestone Township Board unanimously approved to place some sort of referendum on the ballot in the spring. They're working with their their legal staff and internally of what that would look like, but they're looking at combined waste and recycling services for their township residents. So excited about that. Holiday light recycling continues. So if you yourself have holiday lights, it's through Monday. The locations are listed, the public drop-off sites are listed, as well as there's one here at the courthouse. And if you want to share with any of your friends, happy to accept those holiday lights. Keep them out of the trash and certainly out of the recycling bins where they do pose a problem. The resource management plan, we're still working on that with FOTH as our consultant, and look to bring that to the committee either this month or next month, depending on how quickly FOTH and I can wrap a few things up for discussion and for your thoughts. And that is a plan that's updated every 5 years with an overhaul every 20 years and submitted to the IEPA. Landfill committee, I will bring the budget should be this month for that budget for you to look at as well. And then Regional Food Council, February 21st, in coordination with the Community Foundation of Central Illinois, we're hosting a conference. Some invitations are out, the rest will be coming, and all of you will be invited to attend, and that is just really looking at hunger in the area and how it's been addressed through their Ending Hunger Together funding that the Community Foundation has done, and then also how that has impacted and that work has rippled out through the food system as a whole, and in terms of even economic development. Sounds weird to say economic development around hunger, but truly it has really opened the door for a lot of work. So that is great. And then the sustainability update, not much there other than a few projects have wrapped up at the end of the year as required by Ameren for some of the funding that we received. That's what I have, unless there are questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Could you direct me to the specific place to put the Christmas light?
Yes, so in the courthouse, there's one by the Jefferson Street entrance. There's a bin right there that you can drop off. Sure thing.
And that's until Monday?
Till Monday the 9th, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I had a constituent ask what happens to those lights. Can you actually recycle them or just dispose of them properly?
They are recycled, just like if you were an extension cord or something like that. The wire is stripped. The plastic is garbage, but they many times end up in recycling bins and pose a huge problem at materials recovery facilities. It's a very small amount of wire that is captured, but we generally do hundreds of pounds of them, so it doesn't end up in the trash or worse in the recycling.
I think I filled up one of the boxes. Here. Thank you. Okay. Now I think I haven't skipped anybody else, right?
Do you want me to give a brief update on the board?
Yes, let's go ahead. Yeah.
Board of Health met, just a couple of things, because I know we have a very exciting presentation. But because of the moving and the kind of decentralization of the health department, the Board of Health will now be meeting at the North Branch Public Library for their board meetings until we are back and established in our new facility, and really thankful for that partnership with the public library system. In January, we'll be posting what's known as a Public Health Champion Award. It's for both an individual as well as an entity. And this actually was something that the health department had previously done, but over time kind of went away with some institutional knowledge with it. However, we're reestablishing it partly because in the past few years, we've recognized a lot of the work and our ability to do the work we have done around COVID and other projects has been largely due to champions out in the community. You know, we partner, that's very much in our mission statement. And so part of that is reinstating that. So again, nominations will be posted in January. It's open for people to submit nominations, and then the board will be reviewing that. And then just two final things. Our 2021 mortality report was presented to our Board of Health, as well as posted online. In 2021, just for Peoria County, the top 5 leading causes of death was heart disease, cancer, COVID-19, respiratory disease, and then accidents and injury, which include overdoses and homicides. Overall, the average age for an individual dying in Peoria County is 75. For whites, it's 78, and for blacks, it's 64. And so many of the issues that arise from this mortality report, the health department then works with our partners to actually start addressing it, whether it's looking at different interventions around cancer, obesity, healthy eating, active living, as well as our Cure Violence project that we have been working on. And after today, after this week, only 1/3 of the health department staff will be at Sheridan. This week, our vital records, which is the county's registrar services, will be moving in with the coroner's office. And again, if you do have questions from constituents, our website is updated and our social media has been pushing out where people are moving and kind of the timelines that they are moving towards. So more than happy to answer any questions regarding just the Board of Health information.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, now we're ready for the slides, right?
All right, Mr. Chairman. Monica and I are going to kind of tag team this. So we wanted to, and the slide deck is in its entirety is in the packet already, so everybody should have hopefully had a chance to look at it. For those board members that are either new to the board or new to this committee or both, we wanted to spend a couple of minutes doing a high-level overview of where we currently are and the policy decisions that have already been made, and then talk about some design decisions that have been made by the management team and the design team, and then we'll finish up with what I'm sure everybody really wants to talk about, and that is how much it's going to cost. So this is a project workflow chart that we created when we started this project, and you can see that there are many decision points along the way, many different components of it. The key point to realize here is that the overwhelming majority of the work has already been voted on by the county board, and that includes what type of project delivery method we were going to use, awarding contracts for the design and construction team, and whether or not we were going to renovate or replace, the project labor agreement and the MBE goals, and then a site decision. Some things, and we'll get to what is upcoming for the committee and the board at a later slide. And then all the color boxes at the bottom that are gray shaded there, as you can see, are project deliverables. For the next several slides, there are color codes. Green is the management team, blue is the design team, and orange is the policymaking team. The policymaking team is this committee and the county board, so just keeping that color code in mind. We've gone through several different phases of this project. The pre-phase is complete. It was completed in December of 20. That's when the board appropriated into the FY20 budget initial monies for architectural and engineering services. And then we actually, had no design team and construction team on under contract at that point, so there was nothing that they did. What management team did is we, recommended those funds to be budgeted, and then you approve those. Phase 1 is also complete. During this phase, you selected that project delivery method, which is construction manager at risk. You awarded those contracts. Farnsworth Group is our architect and engineer of record, and the team of Millennia and River City Construction is the construction manager at risk and pre-construction services. Management's role during this phase was to provide the various analysis on the different delivery models and make a recommendation to you. It was also to score and make a recommendation on the design and construction team, and then take feedback from this committee and integrate that into the scope of work for the design team. That led to the renovate versus replace evaluation. And then the design team really in this phase, all they did was respond to the RFPs. Phase 2 is also complete. This is where the committee and the board, we collected a substantial amount of data on the existing condition of the facility so that you could have a good framework as to whether or not we should renovate or replace it. The county board voted to replace the building, so we're going to be building a new building. The committee also did an exhaustive analysis of both the services that were being delivered by the offices and departments that we're looking to co-locate, and the demographics of the clients that they serve. And then also the potential sites where this could go. And if those of you that were on the board or on the committee at the time, you remember we evaluated over 20 different locations, and each location there was 30 or more evaluation criteria at which the architect and the design team evaluated, and not staff, to come back with what that recommendation was. A key component also was a service prioritization, and that was prioritizing the offices and departments and the services that they deliver in terms of how how the building would expand or contract based on funds available. And so the first, in order of most important downward, health department was the first priority. Sustainability and resource conservation was second, because they're currently nested in the health department structure, even though it's an office that reports to the administrator. Third was the coroner's office and morgue. Fourth was the Regional Office of Education's administrative offices and testing services. And then the fifth was preschool for all that Beth talked about that they have at various sites. And then the board also voted, after looking at all the information, all the data, that the current location on Sheridan was the location where we would construct the new building. The design team and the management team throughout that process, gathered a lot of information, conducted meetings and reviews, and prepared recommendations for you. Phase 3, we are in progress with. We would expect that this to be complete by next month, or maybe March at the absolute latest. Something that has already been done is the board approved the project labor agreement. Project labor agreement is a contractual document between the county, River City and Millennia as the construction manager at risk, and then the West Central Building Trades. It does a variety of things. It ensures that there's no work stoppages during the project. It establishes any type of a resolution process for any disputes on the job site by any subcontractor or their employees. And it also establishes the minority, disadvantaged women and veteran enterprise goals for the project, both at the enterprise level meaning actual dollars spent with either suppliers or subcontractors of Millennia and River City, and also workforce goals, so actual workers on the job site during construction. And then, like we're doing today, you have meetings to monitor the progress of the project. The design team here and the construction team, what they did during this process was they continue to work through the design, and they continue to review and provide updates on construction estimates in terms of cost. Phase 4 is a parallel path that we're also currently in. This is the phase where we will bring forward to you at a future date recommendations on the various bid packages for subcontractors and suppliers. That will come in 2 waves. The first wave will be for demolition and site preparation. The second wave will be for the various bid packages for the actual construction of the new building. Working with the finance committee, finalize a funding decision, and then the full board would make those approvals after recommendations from this committee and on the bid packages, and jointly with the finance committee on the funding model. What the management team is doing during this is we continue to refine and finalize those various recommendations. We'll sign off on the guaranteed maximum price once we get there, participate in the pre-bid meetings, and then including creating expectations with those subcontractors and suppliers for the MBE goals that we've put into the project, and then preparing the documentation necessary to actually get it onto the agenda. The design team, they've completed detailed design, so they're actually now in construction design, which is the final phase that they need to go through before it can actually go out for bid. And then they continue to conduct those reviews, feasibility, and revise the costing. Millennium and River City will come back with a guaranteed maximum price, and then they also help us coordinate that subcontractor and supplier bidding process, and they will do a review of the bids once they are opened. It will be a closed hard bid type of process. Final phase is phase 5, and this has not started yet. This won't start until we actually award contracts. The committee will obviously monitor the progress of the demolition of the current building and the construction of the new building. If and when they come up, you'll review and approve change orders as may be needed. If it's above a certain dollar threshold, then that goes to the full county board. That's a practice that we instituted when we constructed the museum, carried through when we constructed Headington Oaks Nursing Home, and that we'll use here as well. Obviously, our responsibilities at the staff level and the management team level is, we're going to monitor the progress. We're going to monitor the achievement of the suppliers and subcontractors towards the MBE goals, and then there will be regular construction project meetings that we'll participate in. Those meetings will be led by the design team and between the architect and the construction manager, so they'll be doing that. They also obviously are going to build it, and then throughout any course of any construction project of this size and scope, subcontractors and suppliers are always going to have requests for information, so the architect has to respond to those, and River City and Millennia coordinate that then from a constructability standpoint. Then when complete, the project will get closed out. So from a design decision to date, notice that this is in blue, so this is from your design and construction team. It did have input from the management team and previously from the committee. And at prior committees, we've heard the design team led by Ellen Spencer from Farnsworth talk about these bullet points. So the major design elements for the new building has an emphasis on life and growth with a secure and safe environment for our clients, our customers, and our team members. How that translates to architecture is through the physical green walls and plants that we plan to have on the interior, the use of natural light and warm wood textures, and then stable and strong grounding through some of the exterior materials, that being concrete and brick. Those exterior facade materials also complement the neighborhood that we're in. We're in the West Bluff of the city of Peoria, but at the same time we want to have it stand out as a beacon for the county. Blue is going to be a common theme because the county seal and logo, the health department's logo, the coroner's logo, and the ROE's logo all have a shade of blue in them, and so the design team looked at each one of those, found a blue that was complementary to all of them and works well, and that will be a blue that will be seen throughout the entire project. They also looked at building orientation so that its size, location, the quantity of windows that we have are going to maximize that natural light. The original plan is a green roof to reduce our stormwater runoff, which also reduces our operating expenses because it's in the city. It does, which has a stormwater utility, which means we have to pay the city on an annual basis for the amount of impervious surface that we take up on this property. And then also working around some significant utility constraints on the site. There's a cell tower on the property. What many don't know is there is a primary sanitary sewer trunk line that runs basically down what would be Ellis if Ellis continued through the property, which is behind the current building, so in the parking lot. We did not want to disturb that due to the cost considerations of having to move that. And then if you pay close attention to the property standing on Sheridan looking to the east, you'll note that the building actually does slope backwards there from the front of the property to the far back of the property. There's 10 to 12 feet change in elevation, and so that's something that we need to take into consideration as well. The initial design had two structures, one for the coroner's office and morgue, the other for everyone else. That totaled almost 63,000 square feet. It did include a full basement under the coroner and the morgue that would largely be used for record storage for the county, not exclusively for the coroner. The initial all-in construction estimate, so this includes hard construction costs, it includes allowances for materials, it includes soft costs and contingencies, was $28.1 million. That was a number that was a little bit of a sticker shock to Monica and I. This is just a 3D rendering of what that initial design looked like, laid over Google Earth. So you can see the existing building, and you can see where the coroner's office and morgue was, wrapped around the cell tower in the back corner, where the new proposed building was. And keeping in mind that that major sewer trunk line ran from between the two buildings, continuing where Ellis currently is. So when we saw that number, we said that that's a problem, and that's way more than we can even possibly afford. And so when that happens in any major construction project like this, we do something that's called value engineering. And this is something that Mike and I jumped head first into. We also engaged Beth and Jamie as other occupants in the project. And this slide summarizes what we have done to date. And there's still more work being done. First, we consolidated those two structures into a single structure. Using the priority matrix that the board adopted, we eliminated preschool for all. We reduced the number of medical and dental exam rooms without jeopardizing the partnerships that Monica has. So she has partnerships with Heartland Health and U of I College of Medicine, and to decrease those the quantity of those exam rooms any further actually threatens those partnerships and the revenue opportunities that we have in the operating budget for the health department. And also, obviously, the services that they deliver to the clients and customers in the community. Second, we reduced the sizes of the offices and the spaces designated for cubicles. So just as an example, using cubicles in cubicle workspaces, instead of having maybe 12 by 12 cubes, now we have 8 by 8 or 8 by 10. And when it doesn't sound like that much, but it does add up. And it was necessary to do. Secondly, we reduced the size of the subwaiting at intake, which is the primary waiting area, the lobby area that you'll experience when you walk into the new building through the main entrance. We also reconfigured the site and the parking design to be able to maintain a large portion of the existing parking lot. That way we don't incur the cost of having to demolish that parking lot and rebuild it. What will end up happening is we'll most likely just need to do a very relatively inexpensive overlay and restripe. Now, some of the parking to meet some of our stormwater requirements, we are going to put some parking islands in that'll have vegetation and landscaping so as we can better manage stormwater. But by and large, we've tried to reduce the amount of disturbance to the parking lot as much as possible. If you recall from the prior picture, we've got this two-story clear story area that the architects dubbed the spine. We reduced that design element by approximately 50%. The spine itself was going to be defined by two-story tall poured concrete walls. That ended up being incredibly expensive. And so we've eliminated that. We're going to use a different construction method that is much more cost effective. We made a decision to keep the existing garage, which is where the coroner's office and morgue was proposed to be in the corner. And that will save cost on demolition. We did, from a cost perspective, feel the need to eliminate green roofs. One of those green roofs was on the preschool for all. And so by eliminating the preschool for all, we've eliminated that green roof right off the bat. The other one was going to be on top of the community room, and based on the cost of what that looked like versus the savings from a stormwater perspective, we made the decision to remove that as well. And then the main building originally was going to have a partial basement under the dental clinic, a full basement in terms of depth, but only under the dental clinics of a small area or a partial area of the entire building. That was mostly for plumbing purposes, mechanical systems. What we did is we actually reduced that footprint, and then we converted it from a crawl space, from a basement to a crawl space, thereby continuing to reduce the amount of work that would be done there. So far, where we're at is we now have a single building. It's 49,818 square feet. That's roughly a 20% decrease in the structure size when you look at the two buildings originally and the total square footage that we had. The current all-in estimate from Millennium River City, that includes, again, hard costs, soft costs, allowances, and contingencies, is $21.779 million. And then this is what the building currently looks like. We're at a footprint size now where if we decrease the footprint any further, then we're eliminating the regional office of education or the coroner's office and morgue. There's no more square footage to squeeze from a programming standpoint without completely eliminating a department from the project. So some remaining policy decisions for the committee and the board. As I talked about, there's the bid package number 1, which is the demolition of the current building and site preparation, decisions on funding, setting the guaranteed maximum price, which comes up as part of the bidding process, and then bid packages number 2 through however many, which will be the actual construction award. And then as they come up, approve or deny any change orders. What you do not see on this list is various design elements. It's not a policy decision for the committee and the board to decide, are we going to use brick on the exterior? And if we do, what color is the brick going to be? What color is the carpet going to be in the dental clinic? Or are we even going to have carpet in the dental clinic? So on and so forth. Those are all design decisions that we hired design experts to do. Design activities that still need to be completed by the management team and the design team working together. We still need to continue to refine and revise that all-in construction estimate. We need to finalize our furniture and equipment needs and cost estimates. We also need to finalize which furniture and equipment from the existing facilities are going to be reused, which will have an impact on how much furniture and equipment we have to buy. We need to finalize lighting fixtures and their placement. We need to find, in fact, we're having a meeting later this week on the low voltage design, and then also finalize the security design. And shout out to the Sheriff's Office. They've been very instrumental and very helpful in providing feedback on the security component of the design. And then the design team and construction team needs to complete those construction documents so that we're ready to go out for bid. And that leaves, Mr. Chairman, the last slide, which is what we probably really want to talk about, and that is the money. So as of today, the sources that we have available for this project, Solid Waste Management Fund, you've actually appropriated in a prior year half of that $250,000, or half of that $500,000. The other half would likely come in FY24. In terms of architectural and engineering fees, the county board has already appropriated in a prior year $1 million for of ARPA money for the A&E fees. And then in the budget for FY23, the county board has appropriated $13 million for the construction. And then what has not yet been appropriated is the $3.5 million from the health department fund, and then any shortfall that we may or may not have. That totals up as $18 million. Some other assumptions to point out, that $3.5 million from the health department fund, that's coming from the reserves of that fund. The Board of Health has been intentionally building those reserves up over the last several years, in fact, almost a decade now, exclusively for this project. So there are monies sitting in the health department fund that can be appropriated for this project. Again, we are using ARPA dollars, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, and that means that we can pay for this project 100% in cash. There is no debt service and no bonds that will need to be issued for this project. On the expenditure side, the uses, these are estimates as of December 29th, which is the most recent estimate that we have from River City and Millennia on the construction estimate. Hard construction costs are sitting at just a shade under $16.7 million. The allowances are right around $600,000. Soft costs, including contingencies, A&E fees, the construction management fees, any construction bond we might have to get during the project, and a whole host of other things, are just sitting at a shade under $4.5 million for a total of $21,778,000. A couple of assumptions that we need to make sure that the committee is aware of. Number one, River City expects that when we actually put this out for bid, there will be a savings in the hard construction number of 3 to 7%. That then has an impact on both River City's fees and the contingencies that are in the soft cost number. So because those are percentages of the hard construction cost. It's Monica's and my goal to get the total uses under 20 million by the time we actually we're ready to bring the bid packages back to you for consideration. It is highly likely that we will need to have an additional ARPA allocation to cover any difference. You can see the current shortfall is $3,778,000 and change. I do not expect it to be nearly that much. It would be my goal to get it to be, somewhere between 2 and 2.5 million at the very most. But obviously that'll depend upon where the bids actually come back when we get to the bid process. I've done a lot of talking for the last 15 minutes. I'll let Monica add in any thoughts, and then we're happy to answer any questions.
Yep, I think you covered everything.
It's a lot of information. But I wanted to get it in front of everybody early so that we can start thinking about it and asking questions. We don't have to ask all the questions right now. You can think about it and think about good questions to ask, and we can either reconvene as a group or set up meetings with Scott on how to tackle this. But the previous board had committed to this project, so now we have to see it through and see how we're going to make it to fruition. So if anybody has any questions right now, Jennifer.
One question, just off the top of my head. It sounds like, Scott, you and Monica and Jamie and Beth put quite a bit of time and effort into the value engineering process. After the extensive brainstorming sessions, obviously I know inflation is a thing, but why was a $24 million building, or 24 plus, designed when that was never our budget?
Great question. I think from my perspective, and I'll let Monica provide her perspective as well. We created a design element, and I think we wanted the design team initially to give us as affordable building as possible, with everything we needed and all the bells and whistles, even if those bells and whistles were not the most expensive bells and whistles that you could possibly get in a building, but to make sure that we had everything in the building. I think we were very surprised by the number ourselves when we saw the first iteration of the cost estimate, and I think the on some level, the architects, they do estimating as well, but they design things and contractors build things, and yes, they're working together, but I think even the design team was a little taken aback by how much the cost estimate was. Inflation obviously is a key component of that, but it just is what it is. I mean, Monica, what do you want to add?
I would also just add, I think it's kind of recognizing how long we have been in this process for this building. I think the initial discussions that really started with the board was actually in winter of 2019. But during that time process, I think when we started discussing the co-location and getting an understanding of the potential square footage, and I think you guys remember when we were talking about renovate or relocate, there was a number of what our potential square footage would be. I think going back, we were using a cost estimate based on previous county projects, the most recent being the museum as well as the nursing home. And I think the large difference between what those costs were coming in back almost a decade ago versus today is not only just inflation, but just the fluctuation in the markets as well. I will just add one thing, which many of you might know. My background is epidemiologist, which means fancy data nerd, right? One of the things that really struck me in my understanding of this that I also kind of have to adjust is when value engineering was happening and has been happening continuously, the estimate cost is not necessarily also adjusted immediately, and partly because there is a balance of requesting estimates as well as making sure that not too much information is getting provided, because subcontractors may then not necessarily fully recalculate or might also recognize that they are potential bidders for this project. So the numbers you're seeing right now does not necessarily indicate, and this, as Scott mentioned, was on the 29th of December, does not indicate where the plan stood on the 29th either. It really is, there was a couple larger value engineering, one being mechanical, that happened in that interim as well.
Yes, Eden.
If we were to end up allocating $2.5 million from ARPA, what are we not spending that money on?
So policy decision for the board, but my recommendation will be that we take it from other capital improvements. So I would recommend against taking it from the money that the board has allocated for economic development, for broadband, for social determinants of health, and those other initiatives. So it would mean that there would be less money out of ARPA to be spent on other capital improvements. We still need to go through a prioritization as to what those might be. There are some projects that are in the FY23 capital budget that are specifically funded with ARPA dollars. I don't believe any of those would be in jeopardy, but projects that we maybe had planned in 24 or 25, we'd have to evaluate and see which ones would not be, still might be done, just wouldn't be funded with ARPA money.
I had the same question that you had, Jennifer, for the engineering when we met them, and essentially they designed the building like we asked them to, including everything that we asked them to put into the building. And then they were surprised when they got the estimate back too, that it was that much money. My second thought to them was, well, you just designed a second building because you're going to get paid more money. And I was told that's not the case, that the second design, the new design, is included in their original fee. They don't want to have to go back and redesign a building if they don't want to, because there is no extra benefit to them. But I had the same questions as to why would you design something that was so over budget? And then for the ARPA money, I've kind of been thinking about it as, we're getting this money because of a global pandemic and a health crisis that was supposed to make up for the economic losses that we took. but because of decisions that we made as a board when it happened, that economic impact to us as an organization was lessened. So I feel that that gives us more of an opportunity to use these funds towards a building to serve the health community, the health needs of our community. Yes, Sharon?
When we met with the construction group and the engineering firm, I had invited Terry Ruland to come along. Terry, obviously we all know, has vast experience in construction. I spoke with him after the presentation and all the information was given to us, and I just wanted to pass along that he was very impressed with all the work that has been done so far on this project. I think if any new board members have any questions, I think Terry could be a go-to person since he understands construction maybe more than most of us do. But he had a lot of good insight and a lot of really good questions, so I really appreciated his input.
Agreed. Yeah, I have no commercial construction experience or knowledge. Like I told them, I said, I bought a house. That's all I know about real estate and construction. So does anybody have any questions right now? Again, I encourage everybody to kind of think this over, go over it, come up with some good questions, and let's get them answered before we have to start making decisions on things going out for bid. Yes, Steve?
I guess a couple questions. I'd like to maybe have a better definition of what the guaranteed maximum price means. Does that set a cap that if cost of inflation and goods take off during this project by $2 million that we don't see the bill, or someone else? Because I want to understand what that definition really is.
It is a hard cap for what Millennium and River City are going to construct the building for. Hard cap, unless we voluntarily choose to alter it upward. And that would take a vote of the board to do that.
Okay. Another procedural question. Under the budget, we have change order, threshold, and total budget. I'd like to make sure we understand the definition of both of those as the role, because you mentioned in there for change orders, the change orders above a threshold would come back to the board. Could you maybe detail what you mean?
Sure. So the past experience here is the construction of the museum and the nursing home. On those two projects, any change order that was in excess, I believe it was 200,000, increase or decrease, required the full county board approval. Source of that, typically, if it's an increase, would come out of the contingencies line, which is a part of the project budget. So it's not like you're increasing the total uses from that perspective. And then anything below that, down to I think it was 50,000 was under the committee's purview. Anything less than 50,000 would have been administratively handled, but had to be reported out. Those are, working with Vice Chair Williams, as she's chair of the Rules Committee, we'll have to memorialize that once we get it to the rules.
Okay. Next question is the consolidation of the coroner's office, and I've been on record of concern of how do you make it user-client friendly at the health department and have the coroner's office in the same building. The original answer was we'll have two separate buildings separated as the view in the parking lot. I haven't been involved in any of the discussion for consolidation, so maybe we could have a little bit more discussion either from you or Monica or Jamie from how do we accommodate that so it meets the expectations of the families who will come to the coroner's office and their situation, and then the families and the users of the health department for their needs.
Sure. So coroner's office and the morgue will have its own separate public entrance. That's maybe best. Let's see if I can get the. You can see on the if you refer to the slides that's in your packet, it's you can see it tucked away in the far left portion of the image. So completely separate entrance for the office. From an employee and team member standpoint, there will be some shared spaces, but the morgue is also a secured space as well. So there'll be a limited access from ROE employees, sustainability employees, and health department employees that can get access to the morgue. The administrative offices of the coroner are actually above the morgue on the second floor, and from a floor plan standpoint, it backs up to the dental clinic in the building on one side and kind of back of house functions on the other side. So the design team took that into account when they were when we looked to combine the buildings, and by combining the buildings, that was at least $4.5 million of cost savings right off the top, because we were able to remove obviously a separate structure, but also we were able to remove complete separate HVAC and mechanical systems, and then being able to size them appropriately for a smaller original footprint here, because the proposed footprint of this building is still smaller yet than the original size of the main building.
I think maybe we could do a part 2 to this, and in 3 weeks when we meet, actually have the floor plan, because I've seen it and it makes sense when you see it. So maybe we could have a part 2. We won't be deciding on the bid package for the build for a couple months or a couple meetings at least. So give us an opportunity to walk through the building and you can see. I mean, I'd be concerned about that too, and I was satisfied when I saw the new floor plan.
I think it'd just be fair to give the committee and obviously the full board ultimately that information so they have a better view, and maybe even the public as we start sharing this publicly.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I thought it was important to hit this early on, because we are going to have to start making decisions in the next month or so. Like I said, the bid package to tear it down. And in my mind, we can build it for the price that we thought. We just can't tear it down. We have to have money to demolish it. So that's kind of the way I've been thinking about it, is we can still build it for that price. We just can't build it and tear it down for that price.
Right. And then I guess my last comment, should be no surprise, is that we set a budget from a county standpoint of the county's contribution through ARPA funds. At this point, I'm not willing to budge from that to add to it. So my ask would be to take from one county board member, take the action to figure out how to bring the budget, the cost of construction back in line. If it's removing our priority list, if the ROE has to go, that's a decision. If the quality of materials changes, again, we don't have design. As Scott said, we don't get to pick the tile floors and the things inside as some of our prior board members wanted to do or commented about. But we do set the budget. That's really the key thing. So from my standpoint, I've been on record of not increasing. So that's where I am, and most likely will not change from. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, Jennifer.
To Steve's point on the budget, do we have anyone looking at grant opportunities to go towards this in lieu of the increase in ARPA funds?
We have looked at some grant opportunities. One was one that came up on our radar very late in the cycle, and we're not able to put together a good application within the time frame that we had left before the deadline, just because of how it came onto our radar. In terms of other opportunities, I've not specifically identified any. I've kind of looked casually and passively, but there hasn't been any that have jumped to the top after that one that we did find that would this project would be eligible for. Monica, I know, has looked at public health related grants as well, and most of hers are for service delivery versus hard construction dollars. But we continue to look and try to identify other non-county sources if they might be available.
For the next meeting, is it possible? I'm sure it is possible, but we'll know what the cost per square foot is, and then how many square feet the ROE takes up of that building, right? So that kind of give an
Yes.
idea of cost savings. I'm just not sure if cutting a few cubicles or offices is going to get you there. But I mean, it's worth getting the numbers, but because I thought about that as well.
Again, and I think the process that I've sat on from the prior committee to this one, and Chairman Williams had run, was very well run, setting our priorities as we documented in this presentation, our budget, you know, and then the process of value engineering or resetting the parameters. So I have no problem with the process, but really the only thing we have as a board to set around this right now is the budget and then the bid packages and some of the procedural, but
Right.
the budget's the one that's on our docket as a board that we all need to look at as board members. Because we already committed in our budget appropriation and for 2023, the ARPA money that's documented here, we did not appropriate anything additional, so we'd have to explain to our constituents why we're spending X millions more than what we already agreed to. And how we can get the cost down is the design team and management team's responsibility to pursue that. I know Monica doesn't like the challenge of it, but that's kind of where we're at in cost. So, and I know Beth's probably not happy if the ROE gets cut, but we all look at the budget. We figure out what's the right way and how to manage our taxpayers' money and provide the quality services that the county expects. Thank you.
All right, last question I'll leave for Sharon.
It's more of a comment. I would really hope, Steve, that you would keep an open mind on this because costs have gone up. But we also need to consider that the ROE does a lot of work with the health department. It's a natural fit for her to be part of this campus. This money, as as Chairman Renault said, came to us because of the COVID pandemic. I think this is a priority. We have a health department that is over 70 years old. We have a coroner's office with a roof that leaks, inefficient for him to do his job properly. And we have the ROE all over the county. She's located in several different locations. And it's just a natural fit to bring everyone under one roof, one facility, and these organizations work together constantly. I just think we just can't cut the ROE. So I hope, Steve, that you would keep an open mind, understanding that inflation has caused the price to go up a little bit, but we have money available from ARPA to pay for this project.
Sorry, Brian, did you have a question, Brian?
Go ahead, Brian.
Are you there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm in a bad area. I apologize. I've lost you 3 or 4 times. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Go for it.
Go ahead.
So I missed the cap as far as the cost, and because I was in and out, and I also wanted to know does that cap include fully furnished and parking lot and everything else when we're done?
So the current estimate, so it's not a hard cap yet, is at $21,778,000 and change, as shown on the last slide that's on page 30 in the packet. That is still subject to change, as Monica said, based on the fact that there were mechanical system value engineering decisions made after the estimate was given to us. And so the construction team is working to recost those. That number is the all-in number, so that includes demolishing the existing building and preparing the site. It includes constructing the new facility. It includes allowances for various materials. It also includes a variety of soft costs, which include but are not limited to building permits, the construction bond, which will be 1% of the hard construction cost. It includes the design fees for Farnsworth, which are not a sliding scale based on the hours they work, but was a flat number. It includes the construction management fee to Millennia and River City, which is 3.5% of the hard construction costs and some miscellaneous project costs, which are bundled in soft. And then it also includes contingencies. Currently, we have contingencies at 7.5% of the total. So that's how we arrive at the 21.778. But like I said, that number is going to change, and it should change downward based on the decisions that we made right before Christmas, before we go out to bid.
Okay, thank you. As you'll hear me, as you heard me say in the past, and as you will hear me say in the future, it's easy to spend the money when you got ARPA money coming in, but it will really hurt us on the budget for the next several years if we spend that much money.
Okay, thank you, Brian. All right.
Thank you.
We have to review the executive session minutes. Oh, do you have something real quick, Phil? And again, we'll have another conversation about this in 3 weeks. You can talk first. Then I'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the executive session minutes review, it remains the recommendation of the state's attorney's office that previously held minutes continue to be held because the need for confidentiality does still exist, but also to destroy the executive session audio recordings that are more than 2 years old, except for those that relate to pending litigation.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept these recommendations? Brandy, and a second by Jennifer. Any questions? All right, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, and my apologies to the chairperson of the next committee for going over. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.